On the once broken shard plane of Alara, there is a powerful mage who lays in wait, slowly collecting the power of Vis, a magical substance that holds life energy. With this, she hopes to bring back that which was lost. Kess, Dissident Mage, is a commander from the Commander 2017 set. For 1 blue, black, and a red, you get a 3/4 with flying. But of course, what really stands out is her ability, which states, during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. This is an amazing ability, as it allows for us to use our spells twice in a turn, or even keep getting value after we play it the first time. In this video, we'll see what we can do with a commander that has as much potential as Kess. Now, before we get into what deck I've cooked up, I think it's important to say that for Kess, you can build her a lot of different ways. Some common ways are using cards like Demonic Consultation and Tainted Pact to exile your library and they play Laboratory Maniac and win the game. There's a Reanimator deck, since we can use Reanimate more than once, a control build that isn't as common, and finally the deck that we're going to be focusing on today, which is Kess Doomsday. Now, this list is slightly different than others because we focus around using Doomsday to empty our library and win through Laboratory Maniac, with our backups using Aetherflux Reservoir to storm off and ping everyone at the table for their life total. Now, there are obviously going to be pros and cons to every deck, so here are some for this particular Kess build. Pros: this deck can win on average by turn 3 or 4. There are lines where we could technically win on turn 1, but we need a very, very specific hand in order to do so. We can switch to a longer game plan if our wins get stopped, or if cards like Sphere of Resistance or Thalia, Guardian of Thraben are played early. This deck runs quite a bit of interaction to stop others at the table from winning if we fall behind, and overall it is very consistent. Cons: this deck has quite a bit of trouble dealing with cards like Rule of Law or Eidolon of Rhetoric. It does not enjoy playing against stacks pieces like Sphere of Resistance and Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. It uses some of the most complex cards in Magic. Now, this last con for me is actually a pro. I love playing with Doomsday, but the card is a lot more complex when building around a singleton format. There's a great primer for starting with Doomsday if you'd like to read it. I'll put a link to the primer in the description below. I will also go over a few of the easier piles for you later in the video. I would recommend this deck if you think draw a card is the best line in Magic, really enjoy finding combos within your deck even after you thought you found them all, like to be flexible in your game plan, you enjoy solving puzzles that can take a while to string out, and you like counting to 6. You might not enjoy this deck if you dislike drawing cards, prefer a deck with more of a linear strategy, prefer creature-based decks, and you don't like losing life. Kess's ability really allows our game to be what we make it. Using our instants and sorceries twice is something that just yields to great power. Being able to cast Demonic Tutor twice for double card searches, Ponder twice for digging deep when we need to find our winning line, or even Bonus Round, which lets us have 4 spells when we cast 1. We have utility when using cards like Rolling Earthquake to clear a board, and then doing it once the board starts to fill up again. Double Wheel of Fortunes for digging deeper for cards if our hand gets empty or lacking. Using counterspells like Pact of Negation twice on the turn we start to go for the win. With these cards and more, our commander double spells our way to victory. Let's talk about the spells that are the most impactful for a swift victory. Doomsday. You've seen this card a bit throughout the video, so let's take a minute to look at what it does. For black, 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 you get search your library and graveyard for 5 cards and exile the rest. Put the chosen cards on top of your library in any order. You lose half your life rounded up. So from here we have to use Laboratory Maniac, or if we are running it, Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, to win the game with an empty library. Now that's a little vague, so let's conceptualize this win a little bit. Let's say we have Doomsday in our hand with Dark Ritual and Preordain. We cast Dark Ritual to get 3 black mana and cast Doomsday. Here's a simple way to count to 6 and win the game, not counting in mana or anything like that currently. Our pile for this can be as simple as Brainstorm, Night's Whisper, Ponder, Gitaxian Probe, and Laboratory Maniac. So first, we cast Preordain to draw Brainstorm, that's 1. Second, we cast Brainstorm, getting Night's Whisper and putting back Gitaxian Probe and Ponder, that's 2. We cast Night's Whisper, lose 2 life, and draw Ponder and Probe, which is 4. Cast Ponder to get Laboratory Maniac, which is 5. We have to cast our Laboratory Maniac, still at 5. And then we cast Gitaxian Probe to win the game because our library is empty. 6. We did it. Now, that was not a great pile, but as an example pile it works perfectly. But we have better and more compact ways of doing this. Even that example pile can be improved. If the pile was Night's Whisper, Brainstorm, Laboratory Maniac, and then 2 islands, we can still win. Cast our Ponder to get Night's Whisper, cast Night's Whisper getting Brainstorm and Laboratory Maniac, play Laboratory Maniac, we're on 3, cast Brainstorm and we draw 3, and then we still win the game. This lets us cut out a lot of mana from the previous pile, and still lets us get to 6. Now these are just 2 examples of the piles that we can use to finish the game. There are many different piles that we can make to win with this deck. Some cost a lot more mana, and some cost 0, or at least almost 0. The next most powerful game-ending card in our deck is Aetherflux Reservoir, which reads, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Pay 50 life, Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to any target. With this and enough mana, you can easily ping every opponent at the table for 50 or more. The way we do this is much different than what other decks do. They usually use their Mana Rocks and Isochron Scepter, imprinting Dramatic Reversal, to cast it over and over to gain obscene amounts of life. We have a lot of draw spells like Ponder, Preordain, and Night's Whisper. We've also got rituals like Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and High Tide. Along with that, we have many ways to return artifacts back to our hands with Rebuild and Hurkyl's Recall to gain us mana while also increasing our storm count. Now, a great way to keep getting those cards that we just talked about is using a package in the deck called the Notion Wheel package. To do this, we cast a Wheel of Fortune, Windfall, or Time Twister, holding priority, and then we cast Notion Thief. After this, we discard our hands and draw our cards, but we also get to draw all of our opponent's cards. So after this, we have about 28 cards in hand if we just cast Wheel of Fortune, which will almost certainly allow us to keep going off. But on the off chance that it doesn't, at least our opponents don't have hands anymore, right? Along with our wheel shenanigans, we still have ways to sift through our deck and find the cards that we need to close out the game. Most of our game plan is searching our library for cards that can either stop our opponents or secure the victory. We have a wide selection of tutor effects like Demonic Tutor, Merchant Scroll, and Dark Petition to search up anything we could ask for. We also have a lot of ways to set up for the next turn by using effects like Intuition, Vampiric Tutor, and Mystical Tutor to get the cards that we need before we untap. We have many ways to disrupt and stop our opponents. Counters such as Swan Song and Delay really make it hard for them to cast enchantments, or at least delay the placing of something like a Rule of Law on the battlefield the turn before we decide to go off. For counters targeting our winning strategy, we have cards such as Pact of Negation and the Almighty Force of Will to cost 0 mana and still let us play cards. For dealing with creatures, we run 2 board wipes. In heavier creature play groups, it might be in your best interest to run a few more. Rolling Earthquake is a low converted mana cost card, so it doesn't hurt us when we flip it over with Ad Nauseam, but it can still clear the board with a little investment in mana. Indestructible creatures got you down? Toxic Deluge will clean those up for the low price of part of your life total. But hey, we only need one of those to win anyway. With these 2 board wipes, that is usually all we need if the call arises. We can always cast them again using Kess, so we really have a grand total of 4 board wipes. Enchantments are something that Grixis is known to struggle against. The easiest way we have to deal with these pesky things are to bounce them, using such cards as Chain of Vapor and Cyclonic Rift. Kiss those enchantments goodbye, at least until the opponent untaps, but If we have a follow-up counterspell like Delay or Mana Drain, we either gain extra time to win, or we get some extra mana on our next turn. Now for all these spells, we're going to need some good mana to cast them. Our land base is something that at first look is very low. We run 28 lands total. This is for a very simple reason. We are extremely low to the ground when trying to combo out. We don't need 30 plus lands because we are looking for a win around turn 3 or 4, and if we have to go later, that's fine. We would rather draw more gas rather than a 10th land. To supplement the low amount of land, we have good old mana rocks. Out of our 12 mana rocks, only 3 of them do not gain us more mana than we use to cast them. The few that do not net more mana from casting are Fellwar Stone, Dimir Signet, and Talisman of Dominance. We use these mana rocks because we need to ensure we have enough of our colors to make the deck function properly. The other mana rocks are speedy, but have some drawbacks. Like with Grim Monolith and Mana Vault, they don't untap on our untap step, but we get around this by using cards like Rebuild, Hurkyl's Recall, or Dramatic Reversal. Lion's Eye Diamond is there to help when we need to win the game with a low amount of mana. If we use Yawgmoth's Will and then activate Lion's Eye in response, this will net us 6 mana. With all of these fun things packed into one deck, I find Kess to be my personal favorite commander. I love being a terror at the table when she gets out of control. Kess will always be waiting, collecting her Vis, waiting for her moment to strike and take down the table with shouts of Doomsday. If you would like to see this deck taken down to a reasonable price tag, be sure to check out the budget video on that. It will be released 2 days after the release of this video. After that, I will be sure to put it in the cards for you. If you liked this video and want to see more, please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to leave a like. It really helps with all the search results. Be sure to let me know what you think of the deck in the comments below.